We will officially begin the official ceremony in 2 minutes. So please, everyone settle down.
Surindra Rajapat University is a public university with the following vision. Surindra Rajapat University 4.0 aims to be a cornerstone of academic excellence in the local community, delivering highly competent professionals. The university has four strategic initiatives, which are local development, teacher development, enhancement of educational quality, management, and administration. In line with the vision of Srindra Rajapat University, there is a collaborative effort to produce graduates who are well prepared in all dimensions and deliver highly competent professionals. The university comprises 6 faculties with specialized expertise as follows. Faculty of Education aims to produce teachers with competence and teaching spirit. Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences promotes comprehensive learning. Faculty of Science and Technology prepares personnel in the fields of science with innovation and creative thinking. Faculty of Industrial Technology develops experts in modern technology to respond to the changing demands of today's industry. Faculty of Management Science prepares high potential leaders and executives in the business world. Faculty of Agriculture and Agricultural Industry focuses on developing sustainable agricultural practices and agricultural industries. The university utilizes collaborative learning resources to produce graduates through strategic initiatives. This includes teacher training through cooperative schools, enhancing graduates' potential with modern libraries, learning centers, and advanced technologies. Additional international cooperation is fostered through cultural exchanges, sandwich program, as well as student exchange initiatives. Surindra Rajapat University is committed to producing high-quality graduates with exceptional competencies, meeting international standards, and serving as a source of pride for student families.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, participants, keynote speakers, presenters, university executives, and honored guests joining us from Thailand and around the world. Welcome to the 8th International Annual Meeting on STEM Education, I Am STEM 2025, hosted by Surindra Rajabhat University, Surin, Thailand.
We are very honored and warmly welcome all of the guests here today at Surindra Rajabhat University. We are very delighted to have you all here from all over the world and all the networks across ASEAN, East Asia, and America, and also from Australia.
We would like also to acknowledge the presence of our distinguished guests today.
Today, we are very honored to have the Vice Governor here with us. Tan Praphat Janviang, he is with us today.
A round of applause, sir.
We also have the Director and the Vice Director of Surat Wityakarn School here with us.
A round of applause.
And also we have Director of Virat Yotin School here with us today.
Can you wave, sir?
Here.
Oh, here. Okay, sir. Please acknowledge. Okay, with you.
And also we have the Vice Director of Surin Vocational School here with us.
Okay. We have also the Director of Surin Primary Educational Service Area Office 1. Sir? What is in Thai?
And also we have the Director of Surin Primary Education Service Area Office 2.
Director of Surin Primary Educational Service Area Office 3.
Director of Surin Secondary Educational Service Area Office.
And lastly, Director of Princess Chulakon Science High School, Surin.
So please give a round of applause for our honored guest that is here with us today.
So let's continue. May I introduce myself? I am Burley P. Parangan.
And my name is Sirapapha Latana Romkan. We're both lecturer from Bachelor of Education in English from Surindra Rajabhat University, and we'll be honored to be your MC this morning.
Good morning once again. The 8th International Annual Meeting on STEM Education 2025 this year has been hosted by Surindra Rajabhat University and incorporated with many institutions, including ASEAN Research Network for STEM Education, ASEAN Comparative Educational Research Network, Konkan University, Mahasarakam University, Udantani Rajabhat University, and Walaya Alongkorn Rajabhat University, Thailand.
We also have university from around the world in Malaysia, University of Malaysia, State University of Malang, University of Jamber from Indonesia, and also we have university from Vietnam, and also in Philippines, Manalo State University, Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. Are they here with us right
Yes,
now?
I think.
Please. Okay, hello everyone. And we also have Supanuwong University from Laos. Where are you at?
Please raise your
We are the next host.
yes.
Next
year.
Yes,
Okay.
2026. And also we have university from Taiwan, National Taiwan Normal University. And also from Australia, our keynote, Murdoch University. And also from China, Shanghai Normal University and Central China Normal University.
This conference provides an excellent opportunity to explore and develop new ideas about integrated STEM education for faculty members, personnel, students, and educators.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, keynote speaker, and honorable guest, before we proceed with the opening ceremony, may I kindly ask everyone to please stand in remembrance of the Queen's Mother of Thailand. May I request everyone to please stand.
Please stand up. We would like to invite all participants to join us in a 93-second moment of silence in tribute to Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, the Queen Mother, whose lifelong dedication to the Thai people, especially in the fields of education, conservation, and social development, has been profound source of inspiration to our nation.
Let us take this moment to honor Her Majesty, unwavering compassion, wisdom, and contribution to society. Thank you. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the next session, Surindra Rajabat University is honored to present an exceptional cultural performance dedicated to Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, the Queen Mother.
This performance is honor Her Majesty long life dedication to preserve Thai art, traditional craft, and cultural heritage, which continue to inspire and uplift community across Thailand.
Today's performance has been specially curated and directed by Assistant Professor Dr. Acharapong Suktong, whose artistic vision and dedication to cultural preservation have guided our students in creating the meaningful tribute. Please join me in welcoming the performance by the talented students of Surindra Rajabat University. A round of applause, please.
Thank you so much to our Surindar Rajpat University student for their beautiful performance today.
At this juncture, may I call upon Dr. Pongwipa Losombun. She is an expert in Strategic Mission Unit on Science, Research and Innovation for Social and Environmental Development, Office of the Science, Research and Innovation, Promotion Commission to deliver an opening speech.
And may I also call up on Associate Professor Dr. Shalong Suktong, the President of Surindar Rajpat University, to please report your reporting speech to the chairman of the ceremony today, please, sir.
Sawadee-krap. Dr. Pongwipa Losombun, the chairman of ceremony, the Vice Governor of Surin Province, Associate Professor Dr. Chok Chai Yin Yong, the President of Professional Association of Science and Technology of Thailand, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to privilege to warmly welcome all of you to the 8th International Annual Meeting of STEM Education 2025, hosted by Surindra Rajpat University, Surin, Thailand. The STEM 2025 conference has been organized with the 4 key objectives: to provide a platform for sharing research and innovation to STEM and STEAM education, to strengthen international academic cooperation and build the regional networks, to promote the transformative approach to sustainable development, to inspire the support professional development among the STEM educators. This international gathering brings together researchers and educators to exchange the idea, present the research findings, sharing the best practice, and explore the new pathway for the integrated STEM and STEAM education. Throughout the 2 days, participants will take part in the keynote talk and poster presentation, cultural experience, and collaborative discussion designed to foster deeper academic engagement. This year's program is also include the special MOU signing between Surindra Rajpat University and Bodoland University, India, make another important step to strengthen global academic cooperation. It is my honor to respectfully request the chairman of the ceremony, Dr. Pongwipa Losombun, expert of Strategic Mission Unit, Office of the Science, Research and Innovation Commission, to kindly deliver the opening address. Thank you.
Dean, President of Surindar Rajpat University, Deputy Governors of Surin Province, distinguished keynote speakers, honored guests, presenters, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to join you the 8th International Annual Meetings on STEM Education, or I am STEM 2025, hosted by Srindra Rajapat University. I would like to express my sincere appreciations to the organizers and partner institutions for their dedications in bringing together such a diverse and vibrant communities of STEM educators and researchers. The themes of this year's conference, Transformative STEM, Educations for Sustainable Development, highlights an important direction for the futures of education. As the world faces complex challenges from technological disruptions in the worldwide education, our students need more than disciplinary knowledge. They need creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and a sense of responsibility to contribute meaningfully to society. STEM and STEAM education play a crucial role in equipping learners with their skills. Through integrated approaches, inquiry-driven learning, and real-world problem solving, we empower students to become innovators, change makers, and responsible global citizens. Today's gathering, which includes distinguished participants from around the world, represents a valuable opportunity to exchange perspectives, share innovation, and bring long-lasting academic partnerships. The diversity of institutions represented here from Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, the Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, Taiwan, China, the United States, and Australia demonstrates the strength of our region's commitment to advancing STEM education. I would like to commend Surindra Rajapat University and all collaborating organizers and organizations from their leadership in hosting I Am STEM 2025 and for fostering international collaboration in research and educational development. I believe that over the next 2 days, the knowledge shares, the networks form, and the idea exchange will continue significantly to shaping the futures of STEM and STEAM education in our regions. On this note, it is my great honor to declare the 8th International Annual Meeting on STEM Education 2025 officially open. Thank you, and I wish everyone a meaningful and successful conference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pongwipa Losombun, the chairman of the ceremony, for presiding over the conference. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much to the president of Srinagar Rajpat University for delivering his reporting speech. And please remain on the stage for the next sessions, the presentation of token of appreciation, sir.
Dr. Pongwipa Losombun and the president of Surindra Rajapat University, please remain on the stage for the next part of the ceremony.
May I invite Associate Professor Dr. Chalong Suktong, President of Srinagar Rajpat University, to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Pongwipa Losombun.
Next, may I invite Associate Professor Dr. Chuchayan Yang, President of the Professional Association of Science and Technology of Thailand, and on the stage to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Pongwipa Losombun, the chairman of the ceremony.
ขอเชิญท่านดร.พงศ์วิภานะคะขึ้นบนเวทีอีกรอบค่ะกราบเรียนเชิญค่ะ Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Shongshai Yun. As a sincere expression of gratitude for serving as a supporter in organizing the 8th International Conference Annual Meeting on STEM Education, Associate Professor Dr. Shongshai Yun would like to present a plaque of appreciation to the President of Surindar Rajpat University. May I invite the President of Surindar Rajpat University on the stage, please, sir.
Associate Professor Dr. Chalung Suktong, the President of Surindar Rajpat University, to present a token of appreciation to Associate Professor Dr. Tuchayan Yang, President of the Professional Association of Science and Technology of Thailand.
And next, we would like to invite the Vice Governor, Pan Prapasi Janvian, the Vice Governor, on the stage to receive a token of appreciation. And also the President of Surindar Rajpat University to present a token of appreciation to our Vice Governor, Pan Prapasi Janvian. Thank you very much, the President, and also the Vice Governor of Surin Province. And next, we would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Shongshai Yun Yong to please give welcome remarks to our delegates and also participants of I Am STEM 2025, please, sir.
Yeah. Your Excellency, Vice Governor of Surin Province, the Director of TSRI, sorry, well, and President of Surindar Rajpat University, and distinguished guests, I'm very honored to welcome you as on behalf of ARN STEM Education. I'm very appreciate everyone, particularly the host of conference, Surindar Rajpat University. I think the IM STEM is probably provide platform for everyone, not only the researcher, educator, and policy maker to share the idea and inspire the idea to improve the STEM education in our region and beyond, particularly in ASEAN country. I hope that we can share the idea and develop together with the part of the world. And I think today, today's conference will probably give you a chance to develop cooperation and develop further co-research in the future for everyone.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Shongshai Yun Yong, the President of Professional Association of Science and Technology of Thailand, who play a significant role in making this event happen.
Next is the presentation of a token of appreciation to the keynote speakers and external session chairs. Once again, I would like to invite Dr. Pongwipa Lasambun, the chairman of the ceremony, to present a token of appreciation to the 3 keynote speakers. Please be on stage. Thank you.
May I invite the first keynote speaker up on the stage to receive the token of appreciation, Professor Dr. Peter Charles Taylor, Director of International Transformative Education and Research Network and Adjunct Professor at Murdoch University School of Education, please.
We would like to ask Mr. Peter to please stay on the
On
stage.
stage,
please.
we'll have a group photos after the receiving a token.
On the side of the stage.
Yes, please. And next, may I invite the second keynote speaker, Dr. Galen Roglic, Professor of STEM Education in University of Minnesota, USA up on the stage, please, ma'am.
Last but not least, we are pleased to welcome Professor Dr. Tapu Biswas, Department of English and Vice Principal, Visva Bharati University, India. A round of applause, please.
And up next, we have 7 external session chairs, starting with Associate Professor Dr. Vibhuti Chowdhury. Up on the stage, please.
Professor Dr. Dambir Singh,
And next, Professor Dr. Surya Prakash. Up on the stage, please.
Dr. Munira Anas A. Salik Hairula,
And next, Dr. Edna B. Nabur. Up on the stage. And also, Dr. Kate Aran Thamarat.
and as well as Professor Dr. Ibincha Chanu. Up on the stage, please.
We also have 2 keynote speakers online today. And tomorrow, Dr. Ahuja will be online, us, and also Dr. Amila will be online. So please smile for the group photos.
Not yet. We would like to request Mr. To give the token. Dr. Edna Nabua, please receive the token of appreciation. India as well, and from the Philippines as well. Smile.
And next, we would like to invite all of the Srinagar Rajpat University executive, the management team, and also the association committee members, keynote speaker, and share up on the stage to take photos together. Also, the vice governor of Surin province, the president, and also the director of schools in Surin up on the stage to take photos together. ขอเรียนเชิญท่านผู้บริหารนะคะท่านผอ.เขตผอ.โรงเรียนนะคะถ่ายรูปร่วมกันนะคะบนเวทีนะคะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตเซตที่ 2เดี๋ยวจะให้ผู้บริหารหันมาถ่ายรูปกับผู้เข้าร่วมประชุมนะคะ and the second round will be the photos with the participants
Okay.
presenters
May I request everyone
thumbs
to
up please thumbs up yes so we have a successful IFSTEM 2025 conference We would like to invite all of you down here so we can have photos with the
Facing the
participants.
stage.
Yes, facing the stage like
Now I
this.
request everyone to go down the
Yes, down
stage,
here. To
down the
face
stage, and
stage
we're
so we
going
can
to face the
with
screen.
the participants ขอเรียนเชิญข้างหน้าเวทีเลยนะคะ หันหน้า
There's
ไปเวทีเลยสำหรับถ่ายรูปอีกเซตหนึ่งนะคะ
Yes.
ยืนข้างหน้า
May I request everyone to please stay in front
Yes please
and facing the screen
ค่ะ
so everyone
เดี๋ยวให้ทุก
we
คน
can
ยืน
take
ขึ้น
pictures with the participants as well.
ขออนุญาตนะคะทุกท่านยืน in front here and everyone in the back please stand
Stand
up
up. May I
Please
request
stand up.
everyone to please stand.
please stand up okay is the camera ready
The keynote speakers, please. The
president
executive, the
and
president,
also ท่านประภาสค่ะเชิญค่ะเชิญถ่ายรูปร่วม
stay in front.
is it okay ได้ไหมคะ
We have space here. Okay, smile everyone. Okay, and now thumbs up. Thumbs up. Like.
smile everyone let's go take with them
Thank you so much. So may you return to your seats.
Before we proceed with the next session, the first keynote speaker, we would like everyone in this room to witness the Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony between Srinath Rajpat University, Thailand and Bodoland University, India.
We would like to invite Professor Dr. Ibimchat Chanu, a representative from Bodoland University, India, on the stage, please. And also Professor B.Il Ahuja, the Vice Chancellor of Bodoland University, India, will be witnessing online.
And also, we would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Chalong Suktong, the President of Srinath Rajpat University, up on the stage. And also, Associate Professor Dr. Amnoy Wanathosiri, the Vice President of Srinath Rajpat University, up on the stage, please.
Yeah, let me lift this one. Lift this.
Leave from.
Would the
Leave.
council say on
Leave.
it?
Professor B.L. Ahuja will be online. You will see him on the screen.
Good morning, good
Okay,
morning.
may I request the two parties to take photos first before signing?
While we are waiting for Professor Dr. B.L. Ahuja to be online.
Yes, I'm online. Good morning.
Next, may I request the two parties to open the MOU okay? To sign. So may I request the two parties to start signing the MOU in front of you, please?
That's all.
Professor Dr. Ahuja is with us online. He is the Vice Chancellor of Bodoland University from India. And
After that, you may exchange after signing. Exchange, please. These MOU signing ceremony between Surindra Rajpat University and Bodoland University, India, concludes another significant step in strengthening our academic cooperation.
So a round of applause to both universities, Surindra Rajpat University and Bodoland University, please. Thank you very much. We also have a token of appreciation to present to the representative from Bodoland University, and also Bodoland has an exchange of the token of appreciation for the president as well.
Chair none of this. Don't touch it. But chair also.
May I request the president to please come back on stage, please? To give the token of appreciation. Okay, Dr. On give the token and receive the token of appreciation as well.
Thank you very much to the representative from Bodoland University and also from Surindra Rajpat University. May I invite the Vice Governor, ท่านประภาสศรีจันเวียง on the stage to receive a token of appreciation from Bodoland University, please. Thank you so much. The representative from Bodoland University and also the Vice Governor of Surindra Rajpat University. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an excellent moment now to commence to our first keynote address. We are deeply honored to have Professor Dr. Peter Charles Taylor as the opening keynote speaker for this international conference today.
May I introduce our final keynote speaker? First keynote speaker. Professor Dr. Peter Charles Taylor is a leading scholar in transformative learning and STEAM education with over 30 years of experience. He developed the influential model of research as transformative learning, helping teachers and educators rethink their cultural identities and lead change for sustainable education.
His work is reflected in key publications such as Research and Transformative Learning for Sustainable Future and Transformative STEAM Education for Sustainable Development. He continued to mentor educators around Asia, Africa, and Middle East, and also in the Pacific. Today, his keynote speech is Transformative STEM Education, Embracing the Arts of Nature Student. Particle Agency for Sustainable Development.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Peter Charles Taylor, Director of the International Transformative Education and Research Network and Adjunct Professor of Murdoch University School of Education.
Audio, video, दोनों बंद करो.
Optunka, thank you very much. It's a great honour to be here today to see such a lovely audience for a start. And I'd like to thank very much the organisers who are responsible for inviting me. I'm very honoured to be here. And I'm looking forward to hearing the other keynote speakers and many paper presentations and poster presentations. I've been to Thailand many times in my life, starting in the 1970s, and now here we are in the 2000s. So I hope that I can inspire you in some way today when I talk to you a little bit about transformative learning and STEAM education for the particular purpose of promoting sustainable development. So this is the title of my presentation, Transformative STEAM Educators, Embracing the Arts to Nurture Students' Practical Agency for Sustainable Development. Okay, now I have a lot to say and very little time to say it in. And so one of my techniques is to minimize text and maximize images, particularly visual metaphors. So I will use a lot of visual metaphors in this conversation today. The first one is this, which says, today I can only skip a stone across the surface of the water. We cannot go deep unless you can give me one semester to talk about this. So in 30 minutes, this is what I'm going to try and do. Now, all of the detail behind what I'm talking about today can be found in our recent book, co-edited with Associate Professor Elizabeth Taylor and myself. The book covers theory at the beginning, but many, many, many practical examples of how teachers around the world are putting STEAM education and transformative learning into practice for the purpose of promoting students' engagement in sustainable development. We have examples in our book from all levels of education, from elementary all the way through to postgraduate. And many countries are involved in contributing to the chapters in the book, as you can see, including Thailand. Here is my first visual metaphor. Just reflect on that for a moment. What is this telling us? So the human footprint, the way in which we impose ourselves upon the planet is remarkable, and it's very damaging. And here's a little quote. The human imprint on the global environment has now become so large and active that it rivals some of the great forces of nature in its impact on the functioning of the Earth system. In other words, we have become so influential as human beings that we are on the road to negatively impacting and perhaps destroying many of the natural systems that support our life on this planet. And here are some of the major global sustainability crises that you read about nearly every day. Climate change, the number one, that there's evidence of negative impacts of climate change all over the world, including Australia, where I come from. Plastic pollution. Now, plastic pollution is a favourite topic of mine because it's very visible. And if it's very visible, then as teachers, we can draw our students' attention to the evidence of it all around them. Loss of biodiversity, because we're cutting down all the forests around the world and we're losing plants and animals at a remarkable rate. And I have to admit, Australia is one of the leaders in that process. And finally, cultural diversity loss. One of the great tragedies of our lifestyles is that we are eliminating cultural diversity. Now, I don't have time to go into each one of those in detail, but I would like to just touch on the plastic pollution. And here's some visual imagery, some metaphors that I think are very appealing. The one on the left looks like an iceberg, but it isn't. It's actually a plastic shopping bag. And the one on the right is very poignant. We're seeing all through the oceans of the world the negative impact of microplastic pollution on the living species that we cherish and love so much. And unfortunately, sometimes we can use black humour to drive home the point. Plastics again, says the little baby chick. And Mum says, yeah, I couldn't find any fish today. There's none left in the ocean. So that's the bad news. That's called the Anthropocene, the period from the great industrial revolution of Europe in the 1800s, when steam engines were developed and they started to use coal and wood in particular to power those steam engines. And as soon as you burn coal, you give off gas pollutants and they rise and they fill the atmosphere. And we have a terrible amount of carbon pollution in the atmosphere these days. And we're meant to be able to reduce it. Politicians are trying, but they're not really succeeding. And that's where it's so important for educators to share the role in that process. So the Symbiocene, this is a very, very nice philosophical standpoint from Professor Glenn Albrecht, who's a philosopher. He lives in Australia, in New South Wales at the University of Sydney. And in recent years, he has articulated this type of ideal era into which we need to move. We need to get rid of the Anthropocene, heal the environment, and move on. So the big question is how? How should we do that? And so Professor Albrecht has outlined several very important principles for us as educators to bring into our teaching practices. The first one is called mutuality. It's about recognizing that we are all interdependent. We can't exist as individual, independent beings or communities or cultures or nations any longer. We are all very interdependent. The second one is an ecological perspective, which recognizes the interconnectedness of all living things. And by living things, we're not just talking about human beings or our pet cat. We're talking about all living things, from plants to microbes to animals to human beings. We are all in a network of interdependence on this planet. The third one, which is going to be the focus of my talk today, is ethics. This is about, oh, sorry. That's better. So ethics is about the ethics of natural justice, and the idea is to promote cooperation rather than conflict. Every time I turn on the news, TV, media, whatever platform, it's just full of evidence of conflict. We have global conflict, we have regional conflict, and there's some nearby us here today. And we really cannot afford to live with that. If we're going to be interdependent and have mutual respect for each other, we need cooperation in order to address the global issues and crises of sustainable development. And the third one, which I particularly love, is called biophilia. And this brings the heart into the picture. It's not just about what we think, it's about how we feel, because our feelings, our emotions are central to the way in which we act and decide to act in the future. So biological, philia is the Greek for love. It's about loving the planet, loving the natural environment. And if we don't love something, we're less likely to take care of it. Okay, so the question is, as STEM educators, what is our responsibility? What is our primary responsibility in life, in our professional work? Yes, we've got to help our students to develop what we call STEM, disciplinary knowledge and skills. I went through that process when I went to school, when I went to university, majored in physics, and I learned all that disciplinary knowledge. I'm not sure that I use it, but I learned it. But there's something missing from that. We can't just solve the environmental crises with disciplinary knowledge alone. It's not enough just to know. We have to act on that knowledge. And in order to act on that knowledge, we must be driven by something. What do you think it is? What drives our actions? Even on a daily basis, even sitting in this room, it's about our values. It's about how we value what we do in our lives and our relationships with each other. And ethics is one of those important values that we need to be putting into practice in order to address the principles that Glenn Albrecht outlined for the purpose of healing the planet, moving from the Anthropocene into the Symbiocene. So we can look to see around the world, where is the drive, the motivation coming from? And with the United Nations and UNESCO, there's a number of publications, and I've extracted this quote from one of them. 21st century skills. We need an education that engages young people in debate about their ethical convictions, about environmental, political, socio-cultural and economic issues, giving rise to a possible transformation of their values. Can you imagine this happening in the STEM classrooms? Some time ago, it was an impossibility. When I went through a STEM education, it was all about knowledge and objective facts, but we've got to go now beyond that. We've got to bring other important aspects of humanity into our teaching practices. And what we're seeing from the United Nations and UNESCO is that we really need to engage children in developing their ethical values. And just one more of these sources. This is the Council of Europe. And you can see that they have 4 sets of 21st century competencies. The one that excites me the most is this one. Values. Again, values need to be brought into education, particularly STEM classrooms. So as I said a moment ago, I don't have a lot of time to dig into the details of this, and I do want to share with you a couple of practical examples. So if you feel inspired today by what I'm communicating with you, then this book is available online for downloading at a small price. And there you'll see all the theory that I've been touching on very quickly, plus many, many, many good practical examples of how we can put transformative learning into STEM classrooms using the arts for the purpose of promoting students' capabilities, 21st century capabilities to engage with healing sustainable development. So the transformative philosophy of education that we're now involved in very excitingly, and I see many teachers around the world putting this into practice. And by the way, there's no single best way to do it. There's no prescription. It allows you as educators to be creative in your thinking, in your curriculum design, in your choice of pedagogical methods. There are many possibilities. And so it's a liberating process, because rather than just teaching the facts, we can now design complex, artistic, engaging pedagogies of practice, not just by ourselves in our own classrooms, but with other teachers in a collaborative manner. Knowing is clearly at the top of the tree there, knowing and knowledge and facts. You can't dismiss that, and I certainly don't want to suggest you do. But also, in addition to that, it's about helping our children to focus on who are they becoming? Who are we educating? How are we educating them to become citizens and workers and parents? What values do we want them to take from school into those many aspects of their lives? Ethical valuing, which I just touched on, and finally practical agency, which means giving our children opportunities in schools to practice these skills and to see the impact that they have. You know, for example, school gardens is a very favourite activity in many schools. So these are the five basic principles or tenets, if you like, of transformative learning. The first one is to engage our students in cultural self-learning, to know themselves better, to reflect on their own ideas and values, to understand where they come from, and then to engage each other in structured learning activities to explore the viability and the limitations of their current knowledge systems. Relational learning, as I said a moment ago from Glenn Albrecht, mutuality and mutual interdependence and cooperation are absolutely essential. So we need to give our students opportunities in their education to actually work together, to engage in negotiation, conversations, creative thinking, project-based learning, and so on. Critical learning. Now, there are many restraints to the way in which we can imagine changing the environment. There are many system constraints, not the least of which are our own individual habits that we act on every day without any thinking. So if we look at all the plastic pollution around the place, we can say, why do we have this? Who's responsible? And it's not just the person who drinks the drink bottle and throws it away. It's also the people who manufacture the plastics and make a profit out of it. So we need to help our students to become critically aware of the deep social structural fabric of our economic societies and begin to counter some of the economic imperatives that want to continue to damage the planet. And so we need to engage our students in understanding about, for example, the importance of recycling. If you go to the shop and you come home with a plastic bag, what do you do with it next? Throw it in the rubbish bin? Where does it go then? So this is part of critical social awareness, having our children learn about the importance of reflecting critically on whose interests are being served by all this manufacturing pollution and whose are not being served. So these are really important critical questions. Oh, sorry. And ethical and visionary learning. One of the dangers of helping our students to understand the problems is that it can be psychologically depressing, because if you're constantly engaged in negativity, then young children won't see the possibility of making the world a better place. So what we do with our approach in transformative learning is to give structured opportunities in classrooms for children to think using their imagination. Questions like, in an ideal scenario, how could the world be better? What would it look like if we had unlimited freedom to change the world? So this is an exercise in imagination. And that's the word here is could. How could it be a better place? But the next step is the really important one, and that's the word should. How should it be better? How should it be different? And as soon as you use your word should, you're talking about an ethical and moral imperative. So children are helped to develop that sense of we must make a better world. We must be part of that process. And the final step, practical learning, it's no good to simply talk about this in the classroom. We have to get our children to be committed and to feel as though I really must participate in making a difference. I will do so outside of the classroom, in the school grounds, in the family, in the community, and eventually in whatever employment opportunities they engage in. So these 5 basic principles of transformative learning are designed to help our children to develop the important 21st century capabilities, in particularly the development of their ethical moral values. So this is where the arts become really important. We talk about STEAM now, S-T-E-A-M. What do I mean by the arts? There's a very broad definition of the arts. There's the literary arts, where we talk about literature, books and poetry. There's the visual arts, which I've been using today with my imagery, particularly visual metaphors, to communicate complex concepts to you in a simple way. There's the performing arts, dance. We saw some absolutely stunning, beautiful Ramayana dancing earlier on in this conference, and I must thank those performers for the wonderful, engaging, artful performance that they've practiced in. And can you imagine bringing something like that into the classroom? It is possible. It is possible. And then there's the more liberal notion of the arts, which includes all the other disciplines out there: sociology, philosophy, psychology, and history. As STEM educators, we have this amazing feast of possibilities that we can draw upon, the methods from many different disciplines to bring into our teaching practices to engage in new curriculum design. So, as I've been saying, the arts are essential for fostering the following: to help our students develop their creativity, to think about how the world could be better. The aesthetic side of things, we talked about biophilia, the love of nature before. So aesthetics can be part of that process if using the arts, getting our children to see what is beautiful in the science and the maths and the technology and the engineering classrooms. Beauty and love have a very important place in shaping our students' values. Ethics, central to my interests and concerns today. The arts can help us develop our students' sense of virtues, human rights, and social justice. And finally, rhetoric, which is another word for communication skills. So, STEAM pedagogy can be enacted, and here I'll give you two practical examples drawn from the book. In particular, using stories drawn from the arts. So let me share those two examples with you. Okay, so these two teachers in a Perth school, secondary school, one of them is the head of mathematics and the other one is the head of English language. And they decided they would like to collaborate to teach together in the same classroom. So they chose an advanced mathematics class, and they decided that sustainable development was really important. They wanted to teach their students mathematics and at the same time provide opportunities to commit and learn about sustainable development. So how they did that, and this might surprise maths teachers in the classroom, in the room today. Here's a book and it's entitled Window. And as you open the book, you'll see photographs of looking through a window of a house at nature, at the world outside. As you can see up there, the mother and the baby. And as you continue going through the book, that window remains there, but what can be seen outside changes from page to page to page. So over the about 12 or 13 pages, the view in the window moves from nature, lovely animals, trees, plants, something that is just gorgeous, to eventually looking through the last window, you see nothing but housing development. So it becomes a suburb, if you like, instead of part of the natural world. So what the mathematics teacher did, he said to these students, using the graphics calculator, I want you to look at each page in turn, and I want you to document the number of natural species and eventually the number of unnatural species as you go through. So make a database of your observations and then put them into your graphics calculator and see whether any functional relationships mathematically can be made apparent. And so here's some examples of what the students produced on the right-hand side. And they got to see how the population growth in the local area about people and families skyrocketed. It was exponential. And he said to them, well, is that accurate? Why don't you go on the internet and have a look at the government statistics about population growth and compare these results with what the government is saying is actually happening in reality. So the children were able to then extend their understanding to a more general sense. Now, what about the English teacher? What do you think he did? He's embedded in the arts, the literary arts. So he asked the students, as they were doing the process of analysis through the mathematical lens, he asked them to write narratively about their learning experience. And in particular, to note at the beginning, what did they understand about the environment around them, and what did they learn about it at the end? So he was able to then assess the development of their narrative and reflective thinking. So by bringing the mathematics, pedagogy, and the English language arts-based pedagogy together with a view towards understanding sustainable development, some aspects of transformative learning were embedded in those children. The second example, oops, we went the wrong way. It's not easy looking that way and doing this. Okay, the second example is from Thailand. And if I ask Dr. Piang Manalam to stand up quickly, this was from her PhD thesis, and she was supervised by the very famous Professor Chokchai Yuanyong. And they have written a chapter in our book. So just very briefly, I mean, I could spend half an hour talking about this, but just very briefly, Piang is a chemistry teacher at the demonstration school in Khon Kaen University. And she has sorry about speaking for you. It'd be nice to stand up and speak as well. So she has a strong interest in the sustainable development. She also has a strong interest in cultural enactments, and in particular, what's it called? The Lo Krung annual event where you float offerings down the river. So she wrote a story about how children are using plastics now instead of organic material to float down the river. And as a result of that, the river's becoming polluted. So then she got the children to document that process, to write about the ethical dilemma. Should we discontinue this cultural activity, or should we transform it? And why? So they had to engage in those critical conversations in the classroom, and they learned about communication skills. And eventually they were taken to the laboratory at the university, and for project-based learning, they developed an alternative plastic based in cassava. Yes, a biological recyclable form of plastic. So they took this huge transition themselves and explored from a cultural lens the sustainable development issues confronting their community. I'll get it soon. Okay, so just to sort of conclude here, STEAM integrated curriculum, and the term integrated is very important here. We're not just talking about separate disciplines, but how they can interact together. So from this point of view, we're talking about the outcomes, the possible outcomes. One is developing our students a transformative vision of our 21st century world, that they have practical agency and ethical and moral compulsion to make a difference with. That's what makes it transformative. You don't just improve things a little bit, but you set out to make major changes, and in this case, towards sustainable development. Secondly, a transdisciplinary perspective, which means that these skills and 21st century capabilities are across all disciplines, not just one discipline itself. So once they're developed in one discipline area, they can be shared with teachers in other discipline areas. And finally, these 21st century capabilities are not just for employment purposes, but much, much more than that, for the development of our students as citizens of the world, citizens of their local community, citizens of their region, of their country, and from a global perspective, citizens of the world with a moral imperative to ensure that their future is secure because sustainable development is progressing successfully. So I'll just finish on this note. STEM is what we call an acronym. So is STEAM is an acronym itself. Those acronyms don't mean anything by themselves. They just point to a cluster of disciplines. if we really want to do something very, very impactful to help to save this planet and humanity, we've got to do more than just say collection of disciplines. And what I'm trying to convince you today is that transformative learning can be brought into practice, the arts can come into practice, and we can help our students to develop absolutely essential knowledge and skills and values that are going to ensure the security of their future, if not our future. This image is from quantum physics, my background, and it's about the way in which submicroscopic particles interact at a distance. And it's a metaphor for something like this. When you look at the literature around the world in educational research, there are many, many, many acronyms. STEM is one of them, STEAM is another one, and people are making up new acronyms as they go along and get influenced by new ideas. So what I'm just trying to convince you of is that an acronym in and of itself means nothing. It's what you bring to it that really counts. And I can share the list of references with you if you wish. So thank you very much, Popcorn Craft, for listening to me today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor, Professor Peter Charles Taylor. So Dr. Peter Charles Taylor emphasized or stressed out about how an educators nurture students into a competitive or into the 21st century skills. So as an educators, we should promote 21st century skills to our students, just like critical thinking skills, logical thinking skills. At the same time, we have to promote as well how to love and take care of our environment. And one thing he also stresses, and he asked earlier about how do English teachers teach, right? And he said that as English teacher, we should have the seamless connection. So when we talk about seamless connection, it is like applying science, mathematics, but in the medium of instruction, which is in English. So that is very important. And as well as students should know the values, okay? They should have the ethics and the values, especially how to sustain the environment in the future use. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much. So I hope educators should also nurture our learners.
So ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for our first keynote speaker? If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We have microphone ready to go and for you to talk and ask. Or any comments, share thoughts, anything?
Or clarifications?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. We will encourage everyone to please ask questions if you couldn't understand or something to clarify on.
So
I guess.
I think your presentation is very
very
well
clear.
presented. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Give a big round of applause for Professor Dr. Peter Charles Taylor, please. And our next honorable keynote speaker, Professor B.L. Ahuja, the Vice Chancellor of Borderland University, Assam, India. He will be here with us, but in an online version.
Yes.
So please still be seated.
Yeah. Please hold on while we are contacting Professor B.L. Ahuja, Vice Chancellor. So before we will introduce him first, okay? Professor B.L. Ahuja is a distinguished physicist and academic leader with over 30 years of experience in condensed matter physics, radiation physics, photovoltaics, and Compton scattering. Before becoming Vice Chancellor of Borderland University, he served as Emeritus Scientist and Professor of Physics and Mohanlal Hadia University, where he also held key administrative roles, including Director of Research, Dean of PG Studies, and Acting Vice Chancellor.
He is widely recognized for developing India's first 20 CICS 137 Compton spectrometer and for conducting the country's first high-resolution magnetic Compton profile measurement. His international research collaboration institute in the UK, France, and Japan.
Our respected scientist and policy contributor, Dr. Ahuja has served on several communities under India's Department of Science and Technology and has mentored generations of young researchers. His leadership continues to advance scientific research and higher education in India.
Today, he will be presenting his keynote speech on STEM education and the Sustainable Development Goals.
Please join me in welcoming Professor B.L. Ahuja. A round of applause, please.
Am I audible and visible?
We can hear you loud and clear, Professor.
And slides are also visible?
Yes, you are visible as well.
Yes, we can
Okay.
see you, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I will like to acknowledge Dr. Chalung Sangtong, President of SRRU, and Professor Dr. Sampong K, and other organizers of this conference for giving me opportunity. I understand that from Bodoland University side, Professor Chanu is there. My registrar is also online, and my deans are also online. Invited speakers, participants, dear friends. First of all, I would like to convey our indebtedness to the university, Surendra Rajabhat University, SRRU, for signing MOU with the Bodoland University. And I'm sure that this MOU will be remarkable for the forthcoming generations also. So we will have collaborations with the Faculty of Education, Faculty of Science and Technology, Humanities, Management, Industrial Technology, Agriculture and Agriculture Industry, as well as we have very good incubation centers here in technology incubation centers, I mean to say, and the university is having top 2% scientists also in several subjects. And we have all the eminent faculty here, and I'm sure that this MOU from both the sides will be taken in a very serious manner, and there will be fruitful outcomes out of this MOU. Now, coming to my talk, we are talking about STEM education and sustainable goals. Next, Ninja. Just I'm sharing my next slides.
Are you sharing your own screen, sir?
Yes. Just
Slides visible.
It's not moving.
is my slide visible?
Yeah, we can see your slide, but it's not moving.
Yeah. That movement I am checking actually. Yeah, now is it visible second slide?
Yes, so you can see your second slides now, sir.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption. So whenever we talk about sustainable development goals, SDGs, so there was a high level meeting of 193 countries in 2015 in United Nations member states. So they talked about the world roadmap for more sustainable and equitable future. And they represent universal messages for governments, academia, industry, and individuals. So provided some vision document for to overcome the poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all, and increased sustainable in education research policy framework, then alignment with the global cooperation towards inclusive, equitable, and sustainable growth, empower educational institute to create informed citizen who can lead positive societal changes. So now, if we talk about the STEM education, as we all know, up to now, STEM is basically science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And mathematics is also including the management part also, because without management, this mathematics and STEM cannot run. So we integrate multiple disciplines to promote problem solving, innovations, and critical thinking. And then we can prepare the future of work, technology, and global citizenship. So there were 17 goals for this SDG. That is, goal 1 was there should be no poverty, and science and technology and engineering, mathematics can also help in overcoming this, or in getting the no poverty resolution in successful manner. So that equips learners with technical entrepreneurial skill to improve livelihood and create employment opportunity through innovations. Then zero hunger, that was also one of the SDG. And then next goal was good health and well-beings. The good health and well-beings we all have witnessed during COVID-19 epidemic. Throughout the world, the entire scientists, doctors, engineers, they try to overcome that the worst period in the human life. That was the COVID-19 period, and vaccines were developed. So that was not one person job. So that thousands of people, scientists were involved, drug designers were involved. So it came out of that. Then quality education, we all talk about the quality education, and then gender equality should be there. Encourage girls' participation in science and technology through mentorship, scholarship, and various schemes. I remember when I was in the secondary school, no girl was there in the science faculty. Engineering, hardly any girls student was seen, and now we have more girls in science and engineering than our male boys. So this is about the gender equality is achieved in India also. Then clean water and sanitation, that all we know we should have it. And science can do various type of solutions for this. And then wastewater treatment, conservation of system. Then affordable and clean energy. So it will definitely promote renewable energy research, solar innovation, sustainable energy. Then decent work and economic growth, that will definitely develop employment, future ready skill, and it will foster innovation driven entrepreneurship. Then we have industry innovation and infrastructure that will strengthen the innovation ecosystem, and it will also nurture engineering and technology. So then if we go further, then we have reduced inequality, and that is particularly we want to generate the resource for the marginalized and differently abled communities. Then sustainable cities and communities, that will definitely encourage smart urban planning, green architect, and sustainable transport solution. Then responsible consumption and production is also there. Climate action is very serious problem. So we have model climate system. So we need to promote renewable energy sources, create new type of solar cell materials. Then life below water, that is the ocean science. We all wish to know in detail, and only science can do that part. Life on land, we know how the agriculture has been modified, or agriculture products have been modified, and the life has been modified, and we have to manage the environmental science also. So then peace, justice, and strong institutions. So peace, justice. So nowadays we are using forensic science evidences, and so many scientific machines are available to catch the culprits and give justice to the poor and to everyone. So partnership for the goals, all the academic institutes, industry, international networks, they should achieve the sustainable objective through STEM innovation. So these were the 17 major goals which were to be completed by 2030. So everyone is working on that part. So now if we talk about role of India in STEM, our people were very careful since the ancient time. Even if you talk about, say, 10,000 years ago or so, the science in India was much advanced science, actually. But that was just lying in the ancient Puranas, Vedas, and other literature, so which was not available to the European or Americans. So India lagged behind due to non-availability of proper literature or dissemination of the literature to the other partner countries. So, for example, if I talk about the Newton, and if I talk about Rishi Kannad, so this Rishi Kannad, he was in the about 500 BCE, before Christ era or before Common era, and Newton was in 18th century or like that. So whatever Newton has given in 18th century, that was known 10,000 years ago to the Indians actually. And accordingly, if we pick up the special book of the Indian ancient literature, that is the Visheshika Sutra. So that first sutra, first formula, or the first mantra, or the first statement, that says that Vegaha Nimit Vishesh Karmano Jayate. So if we translate it, this is change of motion is due to impressed force. And this is the direct Newton's first law of motion that says that an object at rest will stay at rest, and if it is moving, it will remain in moving until it's not impressed by the external force. So that was already available in the literature. Similarly, if I talk about the Newton's second law, that states that change of motion is proportional to the applied cause and occurs in the direction of applied force. So this was already given 10,000 years ago. That is Vegaha Nimatta Prekshat Karmno Jayate Niyati Kriya Prabandh Hetu. So this is in Sanskrit. You see, the Sanskrit is the most scientific language, and so many languages have been developed through the Sanskrit. So that was available 10,000 years ago, whatever Newton's told actually. If we talk about the third law of the Newton's, that is the Vega Sanyog Vishesh Virodhi, that was again the Visheshika Sutra, that is the reference there. So Vega Sanyoga Vishesh Virodhi. So every action has an opposite reaction that resists special contact. And this is the Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. So this was the status of STEM in ancient India 10,000 years ago. So then some gravitational forces, Newtonian physics, that was also available there. Objects fall on the earth due to force of attraction by the earth. That was already given by Bhaskacharya in 1140, 1185 CE, that is in the Surya Siddhanta. So this was given later on by the Newton. Electricity in India, that was known in 8000 BCE. 8000 BCE means 10,000 years ago, 10,050 years ago. There was a sage Agastya. So he told the theory how to build this battery. So he told that you take earthen pot, then have the copper sulfate, then copper plate, and then have some wet sawdust, then zinc powder, and you will get electricity. And when the people designed the battery according to this one, then that was giving 1.14 volt, and that was later on investigated by the Volta in 1799 AD, means 10,000 years after this was battery concept came in the world, and that was already available in the India. Now, again, coming back to the STEM purpose, you see, if I want to talk about any material in the universe, whatever is existing in the universe, that is made of a couple of elements, and how these elements, how these atoms are arranged, that makes the entire universe. On Earth, each and every thing is made of atoms. And if we see the atomic model, simple atomic model, what you have is, you have here you have this nucleus. In nucleus, you have protons, and then you have neutrons. And then you have electrons, which are just moving in the outer orbits. That makes atom, right? This is the concept of atom. Now you have so many elements, and all these elements are having different number of electrons and protons. So say, for example, I have about 120 elements, like helium, HHE, hydrogen, helium, HHE, Li, Be, C, NO, F, Na, Mg, Al, Si, P, S, Cl, K, Cr, Sa, Ca, Sc, Ti, V, Co, Cu, Zn, and like that. These are the transition elements which are arranged in the periodic table, which all the science or the 10th class, it is all taught. So if I talk about our body, so this is made of these elements. So our body is made of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Then you have calcium, you have phosphorus, and you have some couple of rare earth elements. And all these atoms, when they are put together, they make small molecules. And when these small molecules, they are put together, you get the macromolecules. And from that macromolecules, the body is built. Now, how these atoms are arranged in a systematic way, that is decided by the nature. And till today, science cannot control the nature, but anyhow, we can explain, we can understand why this particular thing is working like that. So every part of body is made of these atoms, standard atoms. We have about 20 atoms we have, and they are bonding. Their way of their fixing at the different places, that is different, and that makes different from each other. Why my skin is like this, why my hairs are like this, why my ears are like this, why my teeth are like this, this is all the material science actually. Why this particular material is working as photovoltaic cell, why this particular material is working as magnetic material, why this is photocatalytic material, why this is photoelectric material, why particular material can be used as spintronics materials, where you can change the direction of magnetic field and switch on or switch off the electricity. So what I mean to say is, each and every material, including dust on the earth, that is also interpreted. On the chairs and tables on which we audience is sitting, that is also interpreted by the electronic structure of different materials and their bonding. So if we understand this one, so why these electrons, how these electrons are behaving in a particular way and how they are attached with each other, or how the atoms are combined with to make molecules, then everything will be understood. This is the just one use of STEM in deciding the nature of different type of materials. So now if we talk about, you see, you are looking here these blue balls, and then you have different color balls, small balls here. So when you bring these atoms together, then the electrons which were moving around them in a circular path, almost circular path, their motion will be, or their path will be deviated from that particular path, and there will be bonding between these electrons, and nuclei of this one can attract the electrons of this atom, and the electrons of this atom, they can attract the nuclei of this one, or there may be repulsion between electron and electrons. And then you have some the space which is not unfilled actually, because these atoms, when they are put together, they occupy 70% space, 68% or 72%, depending upon the structure. Rest part is left vacant, and that decides the hardness of the material. If you talk about the carbon, graphite and diamond, both are having, graphite and diamond are having the C atoms, carbon atoms. But you see the properties and see their cost and see their working, actually, it's totally different. And that is also decided by how their atoms are positioned, how there is, what type of bonding between the atoms is there. That is decided by those electronic properties. So when these electrons are found in different orbits, so we call them the wave functions. There are certain wave functions, certain style of moving the electrons around the orbit, and those are so-called the wave functions. So there are a couple of models. We can model the motion of these electrons, like full potential, linearized, augmented, plane wave type structures there. So up to certain distance, I'm making it very general to the public general audience, because I understand that we have mixed audience, and there is no specific science people here. So engineering people are also sitting here. So we have just oscillating wave functions like this, and then we have plane wave in the interstitial space where there are no atoms. So this is how we can predict the wave functions, and then we will put all these atoms in such a way so that we get the lowest energy, lowest possible energy. Now, this is ground state energy. We will be in ground state only when all the atoms, they are in the lowest possible state. Like a human being, if he is in excited state, he cannot remain in the excited state always. We cannot remain in the angry situation always. We have to come to the ground state. So a stable position is, of course, the ground state position. So similarly in material science and in materials, all the atoms in the universe, they are put together so that the system remains stable. All the chemicals, all the drugs, all the biochemicals, right? All the compounds, they are just put like this. So we can predict with different models, we can predict the motion of the electrons, and then we can decide each and every property. If I talk about the electrical engineering part, why this particular material is working like a supercapacitor, what are the properties, what are the dielectric constants which are making it the supercapacitor actually. And if I talk about the magnetic sensors, magnetic switches, or we have the sensors for smoke detection or any kind of detection, why this is just behaving like this? Why CCTV camera is having this particular type of material? Why not we can have dust instead of that particular material to make this CCTV camera? So all these queries are answered through such type of calculations. You just need a high performance computer, and then you have particular type of calculations. Calculations are of course not easy, as I am just showing you, because this is for the general purpose. So one calculation can take 1 month of CPU time in a high performance computer. So the calculations are very heavy calculations, of course. But anyhow, I promote those who are sitting here in the audience, and if they are from the engineering side, if they are from the science side, if they are from the drug design side, if they are from bioinformatics side, so they should work on such type of stuff. Because if you want to design any drug, why a person becomes sick? As I told, the body is made of elements like carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, calcium, and all such type of materials. Now, if there is deficit of any of these elements, right, then a person's falls sick because they want that particular element in the body. If there is iron deficit, so iron capsules are given. So now what happens? Now, which drug is required? So there are different chemicals. In those chemicals, we see the weakest bond, and if we say this particular chemical can go inside the body, and there this particular bond can break, and then this particular element will be released, and that is absorbed by the body, and then person will get the remedy. So this is the basic concept of developing any medicine, any drug. If I want to talk about the engineering materials, if I want to talk about the mechanical engineering materials, why particular type of materials are used for the machines, in the railway wheels, or in anything which we talk about, any material we talk about. So such type of calculations can be promoted under the joint collaboration also. And I'm sure that the Surendra University, we will have such type of facilities also there. So we are also developing such facilities in the Bodoland University. So if we talk about the future of STEM and SDGs integration, then STEM will shape, of course, the workforce for the future, innovative, adaptable, global, responsible. Now, this is time to talk about the artificial intelligence, robotics, and data science. So without all this, we cannot survive actually. The next century or next few years, they will be devoted to this artificial intelligence and data science. And as we all know, how the science is needed in that. So then you have educational institute. They are supposed to be catalyst for sustainable and innovative work. So together with the STEM and SDGs, they can create pathway towards a salient, inclusive, and equitable future. So before closing insights, I would like to mention that I came across one word, STEAM, STEAM, STEAM. So STEM and STEAM. Now, whenever we talk about the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, or multidisciplinary education, then of course we have to work on STEAM also, because the art needs different branches of arts. They need scientific evidence. So for example, if I talk about the history, so history is written by so many people in different styles. If there are 5 authors, they will give the different type of logics, different type of their explanations, and people will be confused. There have been wars throughout the world, for the survival, to snatch money, to snatch gold from each other. So if we go to the history, then we need to have some evidence who won this war, who did really, what type of those warheads or war equipment or swords they have used, and why they fought like this. So they all are they can be explained by the science and whatever samples we are collecting from the different sites. So now we have so many machines which can investigate the reality behind all those samples, which can be dig out from the different civilizations actually, and from our forefathers what they did. So even if I talk about philosophy, what is the philosophy of physics and what is the physics of philosophy, these are the two disputed or say correlated subjects which one should investigate. So what I mean to say is, with arts, if science is combined, that will make the magics actually, and we should encourage STEAM also, that was proposed in one of the brochure of this conference, which I show, and I'm very happy to see that STEAM education we are also emphasizing in this one. So this STEM education will empower to adopt the future, and it will also design our future. And we need to align this STEM with the SDGs. And I'm sure that all the countries now, all the war, they are being governed by the drone, and there are so many missiles like that, which are bust missiles or something like that. So many things are coming up with. So we need to move with the time, and we need to develop scientific aspects. We need to engineer the materials, engineer the equipments for which this STEM is highly required. So accordingly, we need to train our professionals, our teachers. Then we should have some infrastructure also. So you have the mobile laboratories, particularly in India, we have very large populations. So we are also trying to have the mobile laboratories and then low-cost experiments, kits, reliable digital access, then data literacy and the computational thinking from early grade to higher education. The main problem is in STEM that is industry academic partnership. So industry wants something because industry will never fund you for basic research. And on the other side, without basic research, without knowing the basics, you cannot do science or engineering. So industry will only fund for applied work, applied engineering. And for applied engineering, we need to know the basic science, basic engineering. So because these two are complementary. And anyhow, we expect that there should be balanced situation between industry and academic partnership, so that the basic sciences, basic engineering is also promoted along with the applied part. So accordingly, curriculum and other activities are to be designed, and gender and rural inclusion, that should also be through different outreach programs and the government support. Then we have to orient the curricula towards the interdisciplinary project-based learning that links the STEM to the near words of the SRRU. With these words, I would like to convey my gratefulness, indebtedness, thankfulness to all the audience here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor. Professor,
Sir.
for your very insightful presentation. And we have learned many things that how STEM education can play an important role in achieving the SDG, the 17 SDG goals. And also STEM education can develop problem solving skills and critical thinking skills, which can help the global challenges such as the poverty, health, energy, climate change, and sustainable development. And also, as you mentioned, STEM education and SDG can create a pathway towards the future, right? And also, this can empower also students, educators, and everyone in this room to use STEM education to empower and design sustainable and innovative future together. So please give a round of applause once again to Professor Dr. Ahuja from
Thank you.
Bodoland University. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions in this room?
You are feel free to ask questions and clarifications regarding the topic.
Okay, if we don't have questions, we'll proceed to our third keynote speaker. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ahuja, for your
Thank you so
insight
much, sir.
keynote address. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye. Bye. Great.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our privilege to introduce our next keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Jillian Rorick, Professor of STEM Education, University of Minnesota, USA.
Dr. Gillen is a professor of STEM education in University of Minnesota. Her research explores issues in professional development for kindergarten to 12th grade science teacher with a focus on the implementation of integrated STEM learning environment and the induction and mentoring of beginning secondary science teachers.
Her work in integrated STEM explores teachers' conceptions and implementation of STEM curriculum, development, and student learning in small groups during STEM lessons. She has received over $50 million in federal and state grants and published over 120 reviewed journal articles and book chapters. Through this work, she has provided professional development opportunities for numerous teachers in Minnesota and across the world, including Djibouti, Egypt, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, and the United Arab Emirates.
She has mentored 46 PhD students in STEM education who promote and support equitable STEM education worldwide. She is a former board member and president of NARST, a worldwide organization that improves science teaching and learning through research. And also she is a former president of Associate for Science Teacher Education. And today her topic that she'll be sharing is understanding engineering practice in middle school STEM activities.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please help me welcome Professor Dr. Jillian Rorick. A round of applause, please.
Thank you. I wish my students were that excited when I walked in the room. I really appreciate your enthusiasm. And thank you all for the kind invitation to be here. It's a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you today. So as my title suggests, I'm going to be talking about how students engage in engineering. These are middle school students, they're grade 6 students. So I want you to imagine what 12-year-olds are doing as they're engaged in this work. Okay. All right. Sorry for that technical interlude there. All right. So I just want to quickly contextualize what I'm going to say that's specific to engineering in this notion of integrated STEM, because we are at a STEM conference here. And definitions and operationalization of terms are really important. So as Dr. Peter told us, they don't just stay as an acronym. I'd like that acronym to come to life for us a little bit here. And so when we think about STEM, we think about it as being interdisciplinary. So we're going to bring knowledge from at least 2 of the STEM disciplines to the table. We're going to ask students to authentically engage, so engage in STEM practices, 21st century skills, as they design solutions to real-world problems, all right? And what we've done in our early work on this is we've looked at 7 characteristics that have to be present for high-quality STEM instruction. I could take the next 30 minutes to talk about those 7, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to focus in on 1 and 2 of them, okay? In the United States, our science teachers were the leaders with STEM, the initial people who were expected to implement, and they were also expected to integrate engineering into their work. So in the US, when we look at STEM, we have a high focus on engineering design. So that's why I'm going to focus in on that with you today. As we looked across the curricular work we were doing and the professional development work with our teachers, one of the things that became very clear to us is that the work that is happening in classrooms happens in small groups. Students are doing this design work, coming up with solutions to real-world problems, not individually, not by themselves, but in teams. And so we really wanted to focus on what's happening in these teams, what are students doing, and how are they thinking about these problems? Because as we looked at the literature, there really wasn't much to guide our work and our thinking about that. So what we're going to do today, for the next few moments, is to really think about how students engage in epistemic practices of engineering, and I will define that term for you here in a moment, and how they do that in small groups. So Dr. Peter had a sort of really beautiful macro level, right, of the possibilities and teaching and learning approaches in STEM. I'm going to zoom us really down into the micro level. So when these groups of students are engaged in these kinds of activities, what does it look like? What are students talking about? How are they making decisions? So we're going to really zoom down and look at that group process. All right, so my research question asked about engineering, epistemic practices of engineering. So I think we should define that term so you all know what I'm talking about. And so epistemic practices are the specific ways that members of a community propose, justify, evaluate, and legitimatize knowledge claims. So each of us in our disciplinary communities have ways that we do knowledge building. Whether you're an English teacher, whether you're a historian, whether you're a chemist, we all have ways that we agree as a community that we work. And so we're focusing in specifically on how engineers do that. How do they build knowledge? How do they go about doing their work epistemically? So we were able to draw on some existing work by Christine Cunningham and Greg Kelly. And what they did is they looked at the professional work that engineers do, so how do engineers think as they're doing the design work, and what would that look like, what would be appropriate in our K-12 schools. And so what you see on the screen here is the practices that they said students should be engaging in when we look at our elementary, our middle, and our high school classrooms. These were looking more broadly at the kinds of activities that we're doing here, where a teacher is talking, right, and there may be some whole group discussion. We had to modify them a little bit for small group activities. And so we took those first 16 and we've reframed them a little bit. Some are the same, some are added, some are removed to what this would look like in small groups, okay? I'm not going to talk about all 16 because we will be here until way past lunchtime. I'm going to take a look at some of them. And if anyone's interested, I'm happy. I'll put my email at the end. If you want the details, I can send you the slides so you can follow this a little bit better. All right, so I told you we're going to look at a student group. We're going to zoom from that high level down to the classroom, down to the group. So let's take a look at what the classroom is doing. So this is middle school students, grade 6. They are in a unit on the properties of light, and they are engaged in an engineering design activity where they've been asked to design a security system for a museum. So they have a client who wants them to design the system to protect whatever valuable artifacts are in the room. So if you imagine this was a museum, we have to imagine where the artifacts would be and how would we go about presenting them, right? So I want to point out on the bottom there some of the key criteria students had to think about. If they were protecting the artifacts, they have to think about what they are, where they are, and any potential intruder, so who would be walking in the door back here, would have to cross the laser beam at least 3 times before reaching the valuable artifacts. So there's some criteria that the students have to consider in their design, and they have to do their design work in the authentic context of a museum setting. I'll just very briefly tell you what happens in the unit so you have some context for what we're going to look at. This was a 21-day unit that the students worked with. So this is 50 minutes each day for 21 days. The problem was introduced. They learned a lot of science, and then they did the engineering design activity. So what you can see here is that mapping of introduce the problem, learn the relevant science, and then we deeply dive into the engineering design. So what we're going to focus on is those last lessons where the students are doing that engineering design work. All right, so what we did here is we looked at 2 different classrooms where this curriculum was being implemented, and we recorded the work of 6 groups, so 3 in each teacher's classroom, and we videotaped and we audio taped all of that small group work. So we have hours of video of this kind of work. And so what I'll do here is I'm going to tell you the story initially from the point of view of one group. So we're going to talk about a group of 4 boys. I'm going to call them Alex, Ben, Cameron, and Daniel. Those are not their real names. And look at how they engaged in this process. Okay? And again, as a reminder, we're not looking at everything that happened in the classroom. We're only looking at the work they did in small groups. We are only looking at the work they did relevant to engineering. And so with those videos and audios in mind, we had 124 minutes of small group work that we needed to analyze. Those of you who are working on PhDs or have just recently completed your PhDs can understand how overwhelming that is, right? And so we've transcribed and we've looked at and we've coded all of this work. So I'm going to talk you through the story of what happened here. All right, I'm going to tell you the boring part first, the quantitative part. We're able to tell you how often the students engaged in different epistemic practices. We thought this was going to be useful. It turned out it really wasn't for what we wanted to know. But for those of you who are teachers, those of you who maybe write curriculum, we do find it useful there. It allows us to say, if something is not happening or it's not happening very often, what might we modify so we see the engagement in those practices more often? So it gives us some helpful information at the curricular level, but it doesn't really help us to understand what students are doing. All right, so as students engaged in this work, the initial things that they were doing is they had to brainstorm. So we've told them, you have a museum, you have artifacts, you need to come up with a design, right? You need to propose something that would help the museum to protect these artifacts. So what we asked the students to do is in their groups of 3 or 4 students, in this case we had 4, to individually brainstorm some ideas, then talk about those ideas and decide which idea, what's their consensus, what idea do they think would be the best to actually try out, right? And so as we look at that, we can start to see what the boys do. So they do that work of envisioning multiple solutions. They brainstorm a lot of different ideas. We only see brainstorming happen in this early moment, right? So we get some kind of idea about how they're doing that work. And we really see this with the students as narrating. This is where the context and having a real world problem becomes helpful to the students, is because they're visualizing and they're narrating their story and their design through the perspective of the intruder. So you can hear one of the boys here, he's like, he's describing his drawing of his design. This is the main entrance. He walks in, that's the robber, and he can't go anywhere. He's like, well, I'll go this way, but there's a laser. So they're animated. This brings it to life. They're not just learning about physics out of context, but they have a story now that they can attach their design solutions to. One of the things that we were looking at and one of the epistemic practices is what we called innovating processes, systems, and designs. I'll say that more simply as creativity, right? We wanted to see what creative thinking, what creative solutions students could bring to their design work. And we saw quite a bit of that on the early days, which kind of diminished over time. And so the example I have here, the students are imagining a robber walking in the door. So you can imagine someone walking in the back door here, and that the laser tags them and the laser follows them around the room. So they can't move without the laser hitting them, all right? So they're thinking outside of the box a little bit. It's very creative. They thought about nets dropping from the ceiling to capture the robber, alarm systems going off. So there's a lot of creative thinking in here. Again, with that authentic context, we're able to trigger students' imaginations, and it's not just mirrors and lights that we see traditionally in physics classrooms. The context is really important here. We wanted students to be designing in the context of a museum. So how did students think about that as they were doing their design work? And you can see this conversation here between Cameron and Daniel, and I know you can't read all of it, so I'll just highlight some of the pieces. As they're sharing and they're talking about hockey alarms and things, Cameron says, it's meant to protect artifacts. And Daniel's like, what? Right? So they have that reminder. We've got all these great ideas. We're excited. There's lasers, but it's in a museum. And we have to think about what the client needs. So the boys kept coming back to that in their design work. They were thinking about a museum. They were thinking about that context. All right, as you brainstorm and you come up with ideas, that's awesome, right? We've got lots of ideas now on paper, but the students have to assess those designs, right? They have to decide which is the best, which are they going to move forward. And we see that assessment happening in two different ways. That's why we have two different epistemic practices here. One is assessing the design with respect to criteria and constraints, right? Does it match what the museum director has asked us to do, right? If I look at my design and the robber comes in the room, will they cross the laser beam 3 times? If not, I don't think the museum director is going to be interested in the design, right? The other thing that they had to do to assess their design was actually think about the physics. Does it do what we want it to do, right? Is it actually using reflection and refraction appropriately? So 2 kinds of assessment that we wanted students to engage in. We saw that criteria and constraints early on in their design work, and we saw more of that math and science knowledge later in their design work as they were actually building this. And I won't talk too much here, but you can see some of the illustration here. So I've got the criteria and constraints assessment in red. So you can see that narration of they're looking at when the robber comes in, does he cross the laser at least 3 times? And you can start to see in green, they're starting to interrogate the physics. How does the design work? Is it reflecting? Where does it refract? How does the light go from there to there? They're starting to assess the design using their physics knowledge. So this is the design that they came up with in the end. And the students were very excited about this design. And as you can see, they've got the light reflecting and coming back. So any robber who walked into the door would actually cross the laser beam 8 times. So 2, 4, 6, 8 before reaching the artifacts that they have on the back wall there. So they're very excited about this because it beats that, right? It's got to be at least 3. 8 is a lot bigger than 3. They're super excited about this design, okay? It's got some problems, right? I'm sure most of you have been in a museum, right? Right? And you, as you're thinking about that, have you ever been in a museum when all the artifacts are in the back corner of the room? Probably not, right? So there's a little bit of a contextual problem with how they're thinking about this here. The other problem that this design actually has is they are expected to include refraction as well as reflection. Their design only includes reflection. So they have a really cool design. They're very excited about it, but they haven't fully assessed it against all of the criteria and constraints. The next part is once the teacher approved their design, the teacher allowed them to move forward with the design I just shared with you, is they then move it onto a larger scale. They go through the work of actually measuring angles carefully. So they're going to get a protractor out, they're going to design that, and they're going to actually build it. So these are the epistemic practices of modeling, application of math and science knowledge as they measure those angles, and prototyping, which is actually building the design itself. All right. This is important engineering work. This we found was done by one individual student. So one of the boys, it was Alex who did it, is doing the work, and the other 3 are goofing off. For those of you who teach middle school, you know how that works, right? They weren't being really naughty, but they were not attending to that work, right? So there's something for us to think about there, right? If we want these collaborative practices, they have to engage all of the learners. So this is an important part of the process, but it did not engage the students as a group. All right, so let's look at what happens now. So they took that design that I had. They now have mirrors set up. They now have a laser in their hands. So again, those of you who are middle school teachers, you're a little bit worried now because lots of groups of students have lasers, right? They're very excited to test their design. And what we saw here is a lot of rapid iterative testing cycles. So this is the epistemic practice of iterative testing and design refinements. They need to make sure that their design is actually working and they're going to make adjustments to it. And we saw 2 kinds of work that they did here. One is what we call tweaking. So the mirrors had to be positioned just correctly. So if the mirror was off by even a couple of millimeters, it wouldn't reflect the light exactly as they expected it. So there's a lot of minor adjustments of the mirrors, particularly that concave mirror that was the last one in their design. And then we saw some things that were more diagnostic, where they would actually identify a problem, talk about it, and resolve that problem. So a lot of different ways that they engaged in that iterative refinement of their design. Again, you'll kind of see that here. So the IDR tweak, you can see the second they turn the laser on and it's not quite working, you can see them, okay, move the mirror down a bit, up a bit, left a bit. You can see that kind of quick movement to get the design to work. And then you can see in green there that they're starting to say, oh, why isn't it doing what we expect? And they actually stop, they think about it, and they realize that the laser has to be positioned correctly. I have to always put the laser the same way. If I move it slightly, everything gets messed up. So we see a variety of different ways that they modify and adjust their design. One of the problems for any of you who are physics people and teach physics is the boys really struggled with this idea of the concave mirror. They understood how light reflected from a flat mirror, but a concave mirror is a little bit different. If you don't hit it exactly in the center, the light doesn't reflect the way the boys thought it would. So part of their problem is not understanding the physics of that concave mirror. So it's interesting that we're able to sort of analyze that problem, understand that problem, which can then help us as instructors to help the boys think through that process. Assessing the design, we talked about that. The boys did most of that early on paper. They would do it formally with their design once they got the mirrors lined up, they would do that double check. It's still 2, 4, 6, 8 as they cross. So they still did a little bit of that work as they actually had the mirrors out. Okay, multiple solutions. One of the things about engineering is that you have multiple possible solutions. There is no one answer to these kinds of problems. And the boys really had to work through that. And I'll share one example here, and I'll share it with you with a picture rather than the words. Is because the boys were struggling with the concave mirror, they had a moment where they were deciding, should we keep the concave mirror? So they took the concave mirror out. It still meets the design requirements, but they liked it being in there, so they kept it in. But they have that moment of they have to make a decision about their design. How are they going to do that? Those are things real engineers do. So we see them mimicking those practices. All right, so was this group successful? I would say in the main, yes. They went through an amazing amount of design thinking. We can see them working with the physics. Their design does not include refraction, so that is a problem. It was one of the requirements that the teacher had for their designs. But the boys, however, did not think they were successful, and their conclusion was everything would have worked if it wasn't for that one mirror. So we have this range of notions of success here, which again is something as educators we have to think about. We're really impressed with what the boys did. The boys think they failed, right? So something to be really thoughtful about as we engage students in this kind of work. All right, so I told you at the beginning that I had 6 groups, okay? And I've talked you through one of the groups. One of the groups we didn't get very good data from, so I'm just going to tell you the story about the 5 groups, and I'm not going to talk through all 5 groups. What I will tell you is that 3 of the groups, the ones I just circled, had very similar design processes to the group I just shared. They went through the systematic brainstorming and coming up with the design and testing. And you can see here that the boys came up with different designs. These are the designs of the other 2 groups, but we can see that same kind of design process that they went through. So what I want to tell you about in the last few moments of my talk is what about these other 2 groups? What was happening? And this was surprising to us, but it becomes really important as we think about what it means to engage students in this kind of work. So this is the story of one of the groups here, and this is one of the all-girl groups. They are not able to make a design on paper. They kind of come in and go, okay, well, let's make a star. We'll put the mirrors out. And they put the mirrors out, and they're really not sure what to do, right? They're not able to work like the boys did on paper and come up with a design. And Kelly really she's one of the members of this group. She really kind of succinctly framed that for us when she said, how do we even know it works because we don't have a flashlight? So this group isn't able to assess their design. They're not able to apply ideas about reflection and refraction without having mirrors and lasers in their hands, all right? And so they were actually didn't have a laser. They actually used their flashlight from their cell phone, and they actually started to use their flashlight to design. So this is a very different design process that we see them starting to engage in. And so what they were doing is they would take their flashlight and their cell phone, they would put a mirror, And then they would look to see, where does the light go? Oh, the light goes here, we'll put a mirror here. Then they would look to see, okay, where does the light go? Oh, we'll put a mirror here. And they design that way. So they design by trial and error, somewhat randomly, okay? Something we would call tinkering, which is something engineers do, but it's not really what we were hoping the students would engage in here. So we actually had to add a new epistemic practice at this point, which was creating a model of designing by trial and error. They went about this work in a very different way to the first group that I told you about. So once they had it, so they had their 4 mirrors, the light was reflecting off of all the 4 mirrors, they had a design, they would draw their design, it looks something like this, okay? And then they would say, oh, well, we have some other things we need to think about. At this point, they haven't even talked about it being a museum, they haven't talked about the robber, they haven't talked about the artifacts. And so now they say, oh, we need a lens, let's try it with a lens, we know it needs to refract. So now they're gonna add a component to their design. They have some misunderstanding about the lens, so there's some problems here with their physics learning. And ultimately, what usually happens is the lens would end up in the middle of the design. So in their design, the lens would sit in the middle because they knew they needed a lens because they had to refract, but the light never went through the lens. So this idea of how they're attending to the criterion constraints in a non-physics way here. And then once they'd added the lens, then and only then would they think about the museum context and say, oh, well, let's check. Let's see what happens when the robber goes through and decide if they were successful. So this is a very, very different process that they're going through. So some of the conclusions here, right? Because we really wanted to understand, because our teachers always say to us, but can students do this? This sounds really complicated. I don't know if students can do this, all right? And so what we're showing you here is, yes, students can do this, but they do it in different ways. It also helps us to understand as teachers, what are some of the ways in which we as teachers need to help the students through their design work. So one of the things that we've learned as we look across these different groups is that you need to consider context early in your design. The 2 groups that did this trial and error didn't consider context until really late in their design process, and that meant that their designs were less successful. So as a teacher, we need to make sure that we constantly engage students in that authentic design. Otherwise, why do it? Some things we want to think about with content, right? The whole idea here is that students are applying their content knowledge to the design and building the security system. And we see some of the problems they're having, not fully understanding refraction, not fully understanding reflection from a concave mirror. These are things now that we can attend to either as changes in curriculum or things that the teacher can help the students with and help them focus. So I'll kind of leave you with this thought. What we were hoping would happen, what we designed would happen in our curriculum, is that students would be able to apply the content knowledge they'd learned, the laws of properties of light and physics, to the design process. We saw some students to different degrees being able to do that. However, some of the groups didn't do that, and what they ended up doing is they actually ended up learning content knowledge through the work of design. So while the girls didn't initially understand reflection, they actually honed and learned about reflection through the design process. So this was kind of an aha moment to us. It doesn't have to be we learn the content and then we do the design. Students can also learn the content as they're doing the design, right? If the students learn either way, does it matter, right? And so this is something that we're still working with. And what we know matters is what the teacher has to do here, the work that the teacher does. And that's the next step of the work we're looking at is how does the teacher support learning in these 2 very, very different pathways? So for those of you who are teachers, that's what's next. Hopefully I get to talk to you about this another year and you can learn from the teacher's point of view. All right, I'd like to just quickly do some acknowledgements because it's often the case that someone ends up standing and giving a presentation and they're representing the work of many people, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge 3 people who were very important in this work. Dr. Ramya Sivaraj initiated this work as part of her dissertation. Dr. Gina Wieselman was very interested in gender. You may have noticed that I had all boy, all girl groups there. She was interested in how girls versus boys might engage in design differently. So she was heavily involved in this work. And Dr. Gunter Mohammed Pawanto is one of my current PhD students, and he is moving us forward now to start to think about What does this look from the teacher perspective? What is the teacher doing to scaffold and support this work? So I want to make sure that they're acknowledged. And of course, the National Science Foundation, who provided the money to do the research. And I will leave you there with my email. I am happy to send you papers, copies of slides, etc. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jillian Rorik, for the very knowledgeable insights that you've given to us this morning. Okay, from the keynote address, we'll learn about creating laser for the museum. The students were grouped into 6 groups, but she said that only 5 groups worked. Okay, so as educators, we have to STEM as students to practically engage in real life situations. So in this and in her talk, it is more on practical approaches and collaborative approaches, where students think, students decide, students also involve critical thinking skills, which is, I think, that's the key success for the 21st century skills. Okay, and understanding of the engineering designs process and prepare them for the future STEM learning. The approach mentioned by Dr. Jillian not only strengthens technical skills, but also encourages collaboration, critical thinking, and innovation for the 21st century skills. I hope you learned a lot for sure, as well as for
Please give a round of
applause for Dr. Jillian.
again. Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the audience? Presenters? We are welcome questions.
Yes, we have the first time. Okay, so
It's like
please, okay.
Okay, good morning, Professor. I am a physics teacher, teach in grade 11. I'm very interested in your activity today, and I want to bring this activity in my school. So I want to know that what the power of the laser that you use in this activity, and do you decide for the student to care about their dangerous of the laser? Thank you.
That is an excellent question, because as you can imagine, when we told the teachers we were doing this, and these are grade 6 students, they were like, you're going to do what? I will have to look up for you the power of the laser, because I don't know it off the top of my head. But they were pretty standard lasers that they're a little stronger than the lasers on these, but they're not, unless you shine it right into your eye, you would be fine. But we did make sure that the teacher talked with the students about behavior with the laser. There was a lot of conversation about what was appropriate use of the laser. And the students really respected that. But there were moments when lasers had to be removed from students' hands, definitely. So yes, it's an important safety consideration to have. So. And if you would like a copy of the curriculum, if you want to email me, I would be happy to send it to you.
Wow.
So in short, precautions
Yes.
observed during
Safety
the
first,
activity,
right?
right?
Yes. Thank
Some
you
more?
for
Some
the
more questions, please?
This is our professor from our university.
Suji. Ajahn Suji.
Thank you for excellent presentation. So I teach physics. So now I teach physics teacher. So it's a problem in Thailand now. Not really have some students come to study physics. I want to know the same thing in the US. Is it kind of difficult, too difficult for them or something? Now we kind of have problem with that. So we try to find a student to come to study physics, be a physics teacher. We try hard a lot, but I don't know that now they have problem with it everywhere or not. Seems like physics is no one want to study. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
We do have a similar problem in the US, and that's part of why we wanted to do some of this work, is so physics would become more exciting for students, right? My experience with physics was, it was a lot of math. I actually like math. I'm kind of nerdy, right? That was fine. I liked it. Most people do not. So we really want to try and have ways that students can see physics as being fun and develop some conceptual understanding before we start to layer in all the mathematics. So it was part of our motivation here. We're starting to see some moves in the US where high school students are being required to take physics, which is one step, but requiring and liking are not the same thing, right? Right, definitely. And we were particularly interested in this work with how can we address the gender disparity in physics, right? So when we look at who's in physics, it is mainly males. That's still the case, right? And so we were trying to look at ways that we could help our female students see themselves potentially as being physics teachers. And I wouldn't say that this activity was particularly helpful in that regard, but what we did find was helpful as we worked with curriculum is when we could find STEM problems that included physics that were socially motivating, right? Where students could see how physics could help improve their community, help improve the environment, address things like climate change. That is when we were able to get our girls to be more interested in physics. They were like, oh, physics is actually helpful. It could help like heal the planet, right? Those kinds of things. That is what we really found moved things for helping more students to be interested in physics. So.
Okay. So I think same notion when I was still in high school, you know?
Yes.
That I hate physics
Yep.
because it's more on mathematics. But at least now I changed my mind. That's why I didn't study physics.
It's a very
Chemistry.
yeah. Actually, physics is all around us.
Yeah.
Everything, right, in our life. So I think if we can encourage students to know, and also for them to know that it's very important in our life, I think they'll be interested in learning physics. Yes.
And as well, educators, especially science teachers, are really into practical approach, right? So it's not about only teaching theory, but it should be applied.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Is
So
there any more questions? We have time for one more question.
I think
Yes.
we have this from the Philippines.
Yes.
Okay.
We have students
kababayan.
running the microphones.
Hello. Okay. I'm from the Philippines and I'm taking my master's degree in chemistry education. Although it is physics, but I'm curious about the duration of the process because I've seen that I've seen day 20 up. So I'm curious if how long does it takes, like how many sessions? Because in the Philippines, if we do STEM integration, so it takes maybe 2 to 3 sessions and 1 week is the maximum. So I just want to clarify how long it takes for the entire process.
This is something our teachers always ask us. They're like, but I can teach the laws of physics in 3 days and you want me to take 2 weeks to do it, right? So how long it takes is something that concerns teachers, particularly our high school teachers, because they have a lot of content to cover. And so what we really encourage them is you can learn a lot of things really at a shallow level, or you can learn some important things at a really deep level, right? So I'm thinking about Dr. Peters skimming the stone slide, right? So what we encourage our teachers to do is to say, what are the really critical, important concepts in your discipline? And let's go deep with those. Let's use STEM integration in those important areas, not all the time, because it would be too difficult, right? So really finding those critical concepts and doing STEM. And if it takes a week or 2 weeks, that's okay. We want students to engage not just in learning chemistry and learning physics, but we want them to engage in practices and 21st century skills, and that takes time. So slowing down and taking the time is really, really important.
I just want to follow up, Dr. Jillian. So let's say that the STEM integration takes 2 weeks. So within the 2 weeks, you as a teacher, are you going to proceed with another topic or continue the process because maybe because of the different curriculums in the Philippines, with limited to 1 week, so one topic. So I'm just curious if it extends.
Yeah. One of the things that is helpful for our teachers in the US, unless they're taking the advanced physics or the AP exam, we do not have an exam. So I know for many of you, there's a big national exam, right, that is kind of hovering there, and content coverage becomes critical. So we have a luxury there a little bit in the US with that. So one of the things our teachers do then is they do have to cover all of that content. So again, they can't do STEM with everything. We always tell our teachers, integrated STEM approach is one tool in your toolbox. It is one way of teaching. And so we have to pick those ways carefully, right? So it's picking content that's important to go deep and content that matches well to the STEM approach, right? So because it has to be a real world problem, not all of our content lends itself to STEM. So our second speaker, I had like atomic theory, right? As a chemistry teacher, I would not use integrated STEM to teach atomic theory, for example, right? I would teach that in some different ways, right? So it's very tricky to make those decisions. So let's chat later. We can talk more about this.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank you
much
so much.
for your very
And more?
interesting questions.
Some more questions?
Okay, I think we are out of time. It's noon now. I think everyone is hungry.
It's lunchtime.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you hungry?
Okay, are you hungry? So, okay, once again, let's clap our hands for Dr. Jillian.
After this, we will have lunch.
Yes, we have lunch.
We will have lunch at IRED meeting room. It's opposite this meeting room. The opposite room across from this room. So please look at your name tag.
The claim stop or the food
The
stop
name
that
tag
you were
that you
given to
have.
you.
So if you have the pink, orange for the speaker, keynote speaker, and also our distinguished guest, the VIP guest, and also the university executive, please proceed to the opposite room.
The room is opposite in this room. Okay,
Yes.
it is like
It's a buffet.
a red room. A red room. You can see it over there.
Yes. So it's a